Hello everyone, my name is Sam Park and thank you for joining me today. This is my final presentation for Data Analytics 535. The title of my project is Lung Cancer Outcome Analysis using Data Analytic to Understand Survival Patterns. In this presentation, I'll walk through the full end-to-end workflow I used, from cleaning the dataset to engineering new features to analyzing 8 different visualization, and finally interpreting what those results mean in the context of lung cancer prognosis. My goal is to show not just the findings, but also how I've approached the data, the decision I made, and how this workflow reflects real-world healthcare analytics practices. To begin, lung cancer remains one of the leading causes of cancer-related deaths worldwide. Despite advances and treatment options, survival outcomes continue to vary widely among patients group. These variations are often tied to demographic like age and gender, as well as behavior risk factors such as smoking history. Because of this complexities, data analytics plays a critical role in helping us uncover patterns that clinicians may not see immediately in a clinical setting. In this project, I focus on transforming a raw data set into meaningful insight about survival outcomes. I wanted to understand which factors appear most influential, which ones may not be as clinically relevant, and how data-driven methods can help support early detection strategy. My project was guided by five core objectives. First, I wanted to explore demographic trends in the data set, specifically how age is distributed among lung cancer patients. Secondly, I examined smoking behavior and how different levels or categories of smoking might influence survival outcomes. And third, I compared male and female mortality rates to see if gender plays any role in outcome. Fourth, I looked into clinical variables such as BMI and cholesterol, even though they are not traditionally associated with lung cancer. They're included in the data set, so I wanted to analyze them objectively. Finally, I analyzed correlation across multiple variables to understand whether any single continuous measurement could predict survival or if prognosis is shaped by multiple interacting factors. The data set I used was come from Kago's publicly available lung cancer data set created by Yash Sharma. This data set contains demographic information like age and gender, behavioral factors such as smoking status, and clinical variable including cancer stages, BMI, cholesterol, and survival outcomes. Importantly, the data is fully de-identified, which makes it safe to use for academic purposes, and the structure of the data set allowed me to perform exploratory data analysis and create meaningful visualization. It also provided enough variety in variable types to demonstrate data cleaning, feature engineering, and analysis technique used in professional data analytic workflows. I use Python to in a Jupyter Notebook environment as a backbone of this project. Pandas and NumPy help with loading the data set and performing the data cleaning task. Matplotlib and Seaborn were used to create all 8 visualization that I created in this project, and Scikit-learn supported pre-processing steps such as scaling and encoding. And these tools mirror what analysts and scientists use in the workplace, which made this project not just academically relevant, but also professionally capable. Here's where the coding began. The first step was extracting the raw CSV dataset using pd.read CSV. I used info to understand the structure, which revealed the variable types, missing values, and the number of the entries. And I followed this with describe for a summary, a statistic, and had to preview the first few rows. During this step, I noticed inconsistencies in categorical variables such as differences in how smoking status was labeled. I also detected duplicate rows that needed to be removed, and this checks informed the next phase of the project, which was data cleaning. In the cleaning phase, I addressed both missing values and inconsistencies across the data set. For continuous variables such as age and tumor size, I use median imputation. Imputation, yeah. This approach kept the distribution stable while filling gaps for categorical variables like treatment types or smoking status. I used to label unknown to avoid any introducing biases. I removed the duplicate entries to ensure that no observation appeared more than once, and outliers were identified using boxplot, and I kept extreme values at the first and 99th percentiles. This prevented unusually large or small values from skewing result, especially in visualization. By the end of this phase, the data set was much more consistent and ready for deeper exploration. After cleaning, I engineered additional feature to better support analysis. One of the most important was the binary survival indicator, which encoded disease as 1 and alive as 0. This allowed me to perform comparison across groups more easily. I also created behavior features such as ears smoked or smoking intensity when the information was available. This can be powerful predictors although they were not included in all visualizations. Next, I converted categorical variable into numeric form using one hot encoding. Finally, I normalized the continuous variable using min-max scaling, and this ensures that variable on different scales could be compared meaningfully. In total, I generated a visualization that highlights the important pattern within the data set. Oh, sorry, within the data set. This includes demographic patterns like age distribution, smoking-related survival comparisons, gender-based outcomes, BMI and cholesterol distribution, and correlation heat map. Together, they create a comprehensive picture of the data set and help answer the research objective I set at the beginning. Figure 1 shows the age distribution of patients. Here we see the most individuals fall between their late 40s and early 70s with the noticeable peak around the mid 50s to mid 60s. This aligns with well-documented clinical trends showing the lung cancer risk increases significantly with age. Younger individuals appear for less frequently, which reinforces that age as a major risk factor in lung cancer incidence. Figure 2 shows the distribution of cancer stages. Interestingly, the dataset is evenly distributed across stage 1 to through stage 4. In real-world population, we often see higher percentage of late-stage diagnosis, but this balanced distribution is useful because it allows us to compare survival trends across stages without biases. It's important to note that this evenness likely reflects sampling rather than clinical reality. Figure 3 is one of the most important visualization in this project. Across all smoking categories, mortality is high, which is expected with lung cancer. However, survival is slightly higher among individuals who never smoked or were passive smokers. Former smokers and especially current smokers show worse outcomes. This pattern reflects the biological damage caused by chronic tobacco exposure, such as reduced lung capacity and weakened treatment responses. Even passive smoker perform slightly better, which highlights the direct impacts of smoking behavior on survival. Figure 4 compares survival outcomes by gender, and mortality is higher than survival for both groups, but imbalance is more pronounced among men. This could be due to historical smoking pattern or occupational related exposure, both of which tend to be higher among male populations. Gender itself may not be a biological predictor, but it influences behavior factors, which can indirectly affect survival outcomes. Figure 5 shows BMI distributions across smoking categories. BMI does not appear to vary meaningful among smokers, former smokers, passive smokers, or individuals who never smoked. The medians are almost identical. This indicates that BMI is not a strong differentiator in this data set and is not strongly linked to lung cancer outcomes. Figure 6 shows the overall cholesterol distribution. There's no clear clustering or trends here. The values are broadly and uniformly spread. Because cholesterol is not clinically associated with lung cancer, this result is expected, and this visualization helps confirm that cholesterol should not be included as a predictive factors. Figure 7 provides a correlation heat map of continuous variables. One of the key observations here is the survival does not correlate strongly with any single continuous variable, whether it's age, BMI, cholesterol, or tumor size. This tells us that lung cancer outcome or multifactorial. There isn't a single metric that predicts mortality on its own. This insight reinforced that the need to consider categorical factors like smoking status and cancer stage when building models or making clinical assessments. Figure 8 compares the average cholesterol levels between disease and surviving patients. This average are almost identical. This confirms that cholesterol does not fully explain survival differences and shouldn't be weighted heavily in analysis. It also supports the idea that not all variable in a data set are useful predictors, even if they appear in the raw data. When looking at all eight visualizations together, a consistent narrative emerges. Age and smoking behavior are most influential predictors in this data set, and gender differences appear to be driven more by behavior than biology. BMI and cholesterol provided very limited explanatory power, and no single continuous variable predicts mortality on its own, reinforcing that lung cancer prognosis is shaped by multiple interacting risk factors. This holistic pattern reflects both clinical expectations and data set specific new non-nuances. I cannot pronounce that. Sorry. There are several limitations to keep in mind. The dataset lacks deeper clinical details such as genetic markers, comorbidities, or treatment history. Some values had to be imputed, which introduced uncertainty. Survival was simplified into a binary variable rather than using time to event methods like Kaplan Meyer analysis. And finally, because this is the Kaggle dataset, it may not fully represent real-world population distribution. Despite this limitation, the dataset still provide valuable insight. To conclude, this project demonstrated how data analytic can transform raw clinical data into actionable insight. Through careful data cleaning, feature engineering, and visualization, I identified clear pattern relating age, smoking behavior, and gender to lung cancer survival outcome. The workflow mirrors what analysis do in real healthcare setting, and it reinforced the importance of multi-factor analysis when evaluating complex disease. Thank you for taking the time to view my final project. And here is the code demonstration. And yep. And thank you so much for your time. And this here's my contact and here's the reference for this project. Thank you so much.